The other day at work, we made baskets with the kids, like this one, just out of hay and string. So today I'm going to show you how to make one. This type of basket is called a coiled basket because it's made out of coiled fibers. In this case I used this hay material. This isn't regular hay, it might be the stuff they call quack grass, I'm not sure. But it works really well. I used jute twine because it's handy, and you could certainly use cordage that you find in the forest. You could make this whole thing with just things that you find in the woods. You don't even need a knife, just some sharp rock to cut occasional pieces. It takes a lot of cordage though. I don't know, 30 feet? I didn't measure a lot. Maybe more than that for a basket this size. And this time of year, it's April here, we don't have a lot of good cordage plants available, especially what I'd prefer to use, which would be something like strips of basswood bark or tulip poplar bark. I guess I could have dug up spruce roots somewhere, but we actually don't have a lot of spruce around here. Mostly hemlock and pine, of course, and their roots are okay. Not as good as spruce. But I chose to use this because it's a little easier, and for demonstration purposes, it works just fine. The other thing you have to make is a needle. See that right there? Move my arm. See the hole in it? I made it thin and wide in the other dimension, and the small holes you can get away with, so you don't break right here. If you make it too big, it can break. The Native Americans of my area in New England made needles like this out of rib bones of deer and animals like that to make their rush and cattail mats to line their homes and to use as like bedding material and such. The bone, of course, would hold up, last longer than this. I just didn't have any deer ribs handy when I made this. And this was much easier to make out of wood. So especially if you're going to use stone tools, it's easy to find a splinter of wood and kind of grind this out on a rock. So the way I threaded this needle, well, I should say the way I knotted it after I threaded it, is I made a long loop so that the knot wasn't right against here. It's actually back here. That way, there's space. This knot is not creating a wide gap, because as you penetrate the basket, because you're basically sewing this together, you have to penetrate it like that. There's a big knot right there, and it has to force its way through. Could break more fibers, just harder to do. This way, it goes through easy, and then you pull the knot. And you'll see all this in more detail once I start a second basket. So the beginning of this, to start it, is the trickiest part for me. And I don't know that I've figured it out figured out the best way to do it yet. Oh, sorry, my rain cover. It's sprinkling a little bit out here, got in the way. I'm not sure I figured this out, the best way to do this. But it's the way that, it's an improvement on my first method. So I'm just going to start off a nice thick, you want to keep these consistent, a nice thick handful of straw, or the grass, it's not really straw. I tied the clove hitch on there, get it nice and tight, start your bundle. You need to start like a spiral. Oh, no, never mind about the rain cover for now. Kind of wrap it in around itself. And the idea here is that I'm going to be If anyone has ever made moccasins or done any like sewing on leather, especially buckskin, you would know the whip stitch, or if you made a blanket coat, you know the whip stitch. So basically we'll be doing the whip stitch around the outside of each bundle into the middle of the last coil, which will become more obvious as we go. We start out with, I'm just going to go around the outside here and right back into the center. See that? I'll do it again, because we're going to do it one more time anyway. I'm going to come from, let's see, twist it around, I'm going to start a spiral, right? We're getting there. Around from the outside. Now I want to go into the last bundle. And yeah, like I said, I haven't gotten this center, I haven't figured out a really good method yet. Most coiled baskets, you actually, if you look up coiled baskets, you'll see videos of people wrapping the string part around every inch of this, completely wrapping your materials. A lot of people do it with rope as the core material, although the most famous coiled baskets were made from pine needles, which are gorgeous, really beautiful, and they wrap every inch of it. But this is a much more expedient way. This is something you could do as in a emergency situation if you were out in the woods, in kind of a survival situation, and you need to make a basket. This is pretty expedient if you have plenty of cordage or you found some cordage. Again, around from the middle, around the outside, back in. Pull that through. And tight. So now I'm going to go on. Now this confusing center bit is starting to make more sense. You can kind of see a coil there. I'm going to go about every inch. Remember, I'm pushing this in to the middle of the last bundle. And it shouldn't be easy, because you want it tight. It's possible to make a basket this way that will hold water, because once you get the whole thing wet, it all swells up, it takes up all the space, and it'll leak, of course, but slowly, and it could hold water long enough to, you know, certainly to fill up from the stream to carry water over to put your fire out with, and maybe even well enough to cook in with hot rocks. Alright, so string's gonna go from the outside. Put it on my knee, it'll be a little easier. Try not to poke myself. The outside back into the last middle of the last coil. See that there? Around here. Back in. So I'm making this so tight it's hard to push the needle through, and that's good. I'd like to make this one tight enough to hold water. The one I already made, the center, this part, was not very tight, so I don't think it will hold water. So now, I'm starting to get to the end of my material for this, for the coil. So I'm going to add more. I'm just going to grab a handful and lay it right down in. And I just break the ends back. You want to kind of taper it in, so some of those ends I broke off I might let drop. I want to keep the same thickness, so that's, when I crush it down, it's about the thickness of my thumb. Yeah, I'm going to have to add a little bit more to really retain that. There we go. So see that there? So with the next loop, I just capture that. Needle always ends up behind me. I'll pull it. You gotta help this along at this stage so you're sure to capture the next piece of the bundle. And any loose things like this will get captured the next time you go around, but crushed down even better. So I'm nearing the end of my string here, and it's pretty simple. If you can get the knot undone, which I probably can't, just cut it off. A little bit of waste there, maybe I'll try a different knot this time, and that maybe I can untie later. And do a bowline, see if that works. It's very hard to untie the jute twine no matter what. I just did that backwards, but no matter what knot you tie in it. No, I got it. For the other end, I just do a square knot. Into there, and that most likely will disappear, so you won't see it. If it does, the ends do stick out, I just nip them off later. You can see I'm going pretty quick.